What's up everybody and welcome to this video. First, let me apologize about the probably bad audio quality of this video. I'm recording this with the Rode VideoMic Go, and as I've mentioned in the previous video, this mic is not the best fit to this camera, the Nikon Z6. Now let's talk about the previous video, but before I do that, let me mention that this channel is not a tech review channel, nor is it a Nikon Z6 Center channel. At the moment I'm experimenting a little bit, but half a year from now I will be doing mainly travel videos. So let's get back to last week's video. In that video, if you didn't watch it yet, I'll link it up here. I complained for about 8 minutes about the video capabilities of this camera, the Nikon Z6, and I received some very constructive comments. Interestingly enough, there seem to be two very opposing opinions on what this camera is supposed to be, and I want to address that. Some people say that this camera is supposed to be a photography camera and only a minority of people are using this as a video camera, while other people think that this camera is supposed to be used by professionals with an external recorder. There might be some validity to both opinions, so I want to share my opinions about that in this video. First, let me address a comment that only a minority will be using this camera as a video camera. Honestly, I don't know if this is true or not, and I don't think that anyone knows because it would be very difficult to track this. What I do know is that this camera has very good video capabilities, while the photography capabilities are pretty much average. And also Nikon sold this camera with the filmmaker's kit as a filmmaker's camera. So in my opinion, it was supposed to be a video camera from the beginning. But even if it were mainly a photography camera, there are a few flaws in this camera. Mainly, why is it using XQD cards? I don't see any point in this camera using XQD cards, considering its shooting capabilities for photography. And also, an articulating screen wouldn't hurt photography now, would it? Considering what I just said, I will conclude that this camera was indeed supposed to be used as a pro-level camera with an external recorder. Now, that's not the way that I wanted to use this camera, but that's not the camera's fault. That's my own fault for not waiting a little bit before purchasing this camera. But even considering that this camera is supposed to be used as a pro-level camera, there are some flaws. The first and main one is that it took way too long for ProRes RAW to be released. It was announced when the camera was announced, but it took over a year for it to be released, and I think that even now it's only in beta, and even worse, it cost $200. Now, $200 isn't much for professionals, but it didn't mention that it would cost something when this camera was released, which I think is a little bit unfair. And going back to my main point in last week's video, it still doesn't make any sense that this camera uses XQD cards. I mean, if you use an external recorder, the video will be recorded externally and not on the XQD card. All of this makes me conclude that Nikon rushed this camera a little bit. To be fair, it was their first attempt at the full-frame camera, and they went full out on the video capabilities. So obviously there were supposed to be some flaws. No one is perfect on their first time. Considering how low the sales are, I think they should have waited a little bit longer and focused on a certain group of people. If they intended this camera to be mainly a photography camera, they should have released it with eye detection already implemented instead of updating it later. And they should also have used double SD cards instead of the very expensive XQD cards. And for consumers like myself who want to use the camera at home or on the go for photography and videography, and that sometimes want to do vlogging style video and sometimes want to do more cinematic stuff like many creators out there, they certainly should have implemented an articulating screen, they should have used better preamps, and they should have put less limitations into the software. And most importantly, they should have used SD cards instead of the very expensive XQD cards. Sure, for professionals, XQD cards aren't very expensive, but for hobby creators like myself, XQD cards are still way too expensive. So that's all that I wanted to say on this topic. And I know that my hair looks really funny. I really have to go cut it. I hope that I will go next week. But anyways, I know that there are many things that I didn't consider, and please let me know in the comments what I forgot to mention or what I forgot to consider or whatever, because I'm always open to learn new things. And who else is really looking forward to which cameras will be released this month, this year, I mean, of course. And sure, the 1DX Mark III looks really awesome, but that's not something that is in my budget, and it's also not something that really will improve my problems. Well, the video capabilities will be awesome, but it's way too heavy and big to carry around on the world trip. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching and see you next week. Bye bye.